Today, I'm so excited to welcome my favorite guest on the podcast who's returning for, I don't know how many times you've been on the podcast, but Gia George, who happens to be my daughter. Hi, Gia.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I love our conversations. I love having you be part of the podcast. And I've been thinking about this particular subject for quite a while now. And the idea of talking about surrender, for one thing, because it seems like whenever you and I are chatting about what's going on in our lives, a lot of our conversations end with, I just need to work on surrendering. And we always come to that conclusion. It's about surrendering to what's happening. So it's obviously a real important topic, and something we've talked about a lot, and that I know that you've worked on a lot in your life. So when I just wanted to fill everybody in that we first discussed doing this podcast back in January, and both thought, oh, what a great idea. And I was inspired because of a new song that you've written that I really want to share with everyone. That to me, it's like a really good depiction of how we handle surrender. But then since the time we decided we'd do the podcast, both of us have had interesting things happen to us, health issues.
Yep. Yeah, I this year in 2020, which it's only February 20th today, 21st, and I've been sick 4 times in the last month and a half, which is a lot for me, a lot. And so that's been really frustrating, and it has required a ton of surrender from me. Um, yeah, it's taken patience, and it's taken a lot of just presence to go through that journey and see what gems are there for me in it. If I can gain anything from this experience of being sick. I'm finally feeling better, but I have to say I'm not feeling 100%. Like I'm not my full capacity of energy in my body. I still don't feel like I should exercise or anything. So it's been a really interesting journey to just ride out this wave of down energy and low immunity, and I'm used to feeling so like powerful and vibrant and energized, and so it's definitely a learning experience for me.
Yeah, and I'll validate that you're someone who does not get sick very often. And if you do, it lasts maybe 2 days at the most, and then you bounce right back. So it's been a really unusual time for you getting unusual illnesses like
Yeah,
that.
that's the other thing is like if I get sick, it's usually a cold. And although out of the 4 were colds, I also had a weird stomach virus that I never ever get. And I got the shingles for the first time in my life, which if anyone is not familiar, it's when the chickenpox virus kind of resurfaces in your body because your immune system is suppressed. So those were just very surprising, weird sicknesses that I had never experienced. And it really caused me to like reflect within, what could I be clearing energetically out of my system? What is this asking of me spiritually? So I took it as like, it's not that I'm doing something wrong. I wasn't super stressed. That's the thing. Everybody's like, when you get shingles, you must have been really, really stressed out. And I was like, honestly, no, I've been feeling calm and peaceful. And so normally our minds want to question, like, did I do something wrong to cause this? And I had to say, no, like, I'm not doing anything wrong. This is just, for whatever reason, it's meant to be on my journey. And it's weird and it's different. And the best thing for me is to just be curious about it, surrender as much as I can, and just ride it out.
Yeah, and during this same time, I've had 2 strange incidents of getting injured, and one was tripping on the sidewalk, partly because I was looking at the map on the phone, which it's actually kind of symbolic because I was looking at the map ahead of where I was to see where I wanted to go, to see which streets we'd need to turn on and where to go. So looking at the phone instead of the sidewalk, and tripped on some uneven pavement, fell down, got all skinned up, my knees and hands, and I hit my face and hurt my cheekbone on the sidewalk. And it was bizarre. Nothing like that's ever happened to me before. And then a few weeks later, I fell on the ice and twisted my knee and tore my ACL in my knee. So I've been dealing with these two injuries that are really unusual for me also during the very same time. You and I were both like, what? What's going on? But I feel like I wanted to share those stories because I feel like part of it is this is fuel for our conversation about surrender, because these are just examples of these unexpected things that come along in life that kind of derail you from what you thought you would be doing and from accomplishing what you wanted to do, but that we just have to go with it.
Yeah. I think so often we have expectations of how the world works and how our life will pan out, and we hope that a certain path will unfold for us. And when we are disappointed, we have to surrender. And I mean, it's a choice to make. And I don't think that surrendering means that it's necessarily going to be, enjoyable even. Surrender doesn't mean that it takes all of your pain away or removes any discomfort from the experience. Surrender just means that you're allowing the process to unfold. And I was thinking about this while I was preparing for this talk today, and I was thinking that surrender is sort of the energy of allowing the universe to take you where you're meant to go.
Mhm.
And we want to again make sense of it in our minds. Why is this happening? Why I want to have more control and more say over these things, whatever it may be. I want to understand it. I want to analyze it. I definitely want to have control over how things go in my life, but surrender is the act of letting the universe carry you to where you're meant to be. And there may be discomfort along that path, but it's an energy of allowing and trusting.
Mhm. And I think it's a really important point to make too, that surrender is not about giving up, because I hear a lot of people say that, oh, well, I surrendered it, so now I'm not doing anything. Now I'm just sitting at home and and waiting for something else to happen. And that it's important to know that surrender requires us to keep going and to keep working on things, and to keep putting our energy out there, and tend to be courageous in many ways. But a lot of people, I think, interpret it that, well, I'm surrendering, so I'm giving up and I'm not doing anything now. I'll just sit back and be apathetic.
Hmm. Yeah, and in my opinion, in my perspective, surrendering is definitely letting go. You are letting go of something. You're letting go of your expectations and your attachments. Um, but I feel like the choice we have on our soul paths is our perspective. That's really the main control we have, is how we're viewing things. So it could be that your journey is going to unfold however it's meant to, and the only real control you have is of your reaction to it, how you receive every part of the journey. And so let's say you're meant to get sick, or you're meant to tear your ACL. That could be just a part of your soul path in this life, but you have the control of your reaction. You have the control of your perception of it. And I thought of a really cool analogy or metaphor that might help those of us that are trying to understand surrender. So I thought of it as, imagine that life is like a river and it's just carrying you downstream to all the places you need to go, all the experiences you need to have, all the people you need to meet, everything that needs to unfold on your path. The universe is just guiding you and flowing you down this river. And so you have the choice to, you can choose your perspective along the ride. So let's say something is happening in your life and you're resisting it. You're not surrendering. It's like you're holding onto a branch on the side of the river and not letting the flow take you where it needs to go. And so when you let go of that branch, the flow, the river of life just carries you where you need to go. And that's the energy of surrender, letting go, trusting that life is taking you wherever you need to go. And again, it doesn't mean that all your problems will go away or that all the pain will be removed or that it'll just be fun and blissful all the time. But again, that is your choice how you want to perceive things. So you could be the whole time you're floating down the river, just looking at the side of the stream at all the branches you can't grab and just thinking, I have no control over any of these branches. I can't grab a single one. Or you could be gazing at the sky and noticing the beautiful rainbow overhead. So it's kind of like life is going to just happen however it's meant to for you. I believe in a certain amount of destiny that life is going to carry you down whatever course is meant for you. And your choice is to trust, surrender, let the flow carry you. And then you also have control over your perception. What do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on everything that you don't have control over, or do you want to enjoy the journey and enjoy the view as you're along for the ride?
That's such a good analogy, because I imagine when I picture holding on to that branch and trying to keep the flow from moving me down the stream, it's exhausting. Like that would take all of your energy and all of your focus just to hold on to the branch. And I think sometimes we fight so hard against things changing, and against the just the occurrences of life that come along for everyone, and we wear ourselves out, and then we miss the opportunity, like you said, to see all the beauty that was contained within that moment, because all we're focused on is clinging to that branch and using all of our energy to stay there.
Yeah, it's so true. And like you said, it is exhausting when we're resisting the flow of life. And if you are sick, it could be that the best way to heal and to get better is to let go and allow this experience. Because what if you resisting the illness or the injury by holding on to that branch and wishing it was different and resisting this experience is actually wasting your energy on resisting, where your energy could be better spent on healing and on re-energizing and being reborn, and being renewed. So the more we can let go and just flow with where life is carrying us, I think the better our energy is spent on continuing to expand and grow and heal.
Exactly. And I see this happen a lot for people who get diagnosed with a terminal illness, through the work that I do. And the medical profession has a big role to play here in terms of encouraging people, like, resist the disease, fight the disease, put all of your energy into fighting the disease, when in fact, a person's energy might be better spent if they accepted, like, okay, the new normal for me now is I have this diagnosis, I have this disease. I'm going to put all my energy into living the best life I can. Yes, I'll keep getting treatments that are recommended that seem the right thing, but I want my energy to go toward uh, being full of love and light and living the best life that I can, and enjoying the people around me, and allowing whatever comes next to come, because I can't really prevent it anyway. And so, but it's a dilemma, and I know it's a huge challenge for people who are facing that, and I have a lot of nerve trying to talk about it, having witnessed it but not having been in that position myself.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that the scary part of dealing with a terminal illness or anything in life really is the unknown of it, and what if the river of life has a plan for you with this diagnosis, and the only thing is you don't know the outcome. Is the outcome going to be that you heal and you completely recover and you go into remission and you're healthy and you live a long life, or is the outcome that you're going to, well, if it's terminal, are you going to die from this? How soon? That uncertainty, that unknown is very scary. But I think if we can come back to the present moment and just remember that whatever is meant for the highest good of our journey and everyone, everyone we know, whatever is meant to be will be. And so our only job is to try to make the most of this journey, try to make the most of this roller coaster ride, and try to let go of needing to know what the outcome will be.
Hmm. That is so perfect. And I think this is an important topic right now for everyone in our society, because I think we are really being challenged to surrender in so many ways. We have, environmental destruction going on before our eyes Global climate change is happening. We have political unrest and uncertainty. And so many things are up in the air and uncertain right now. We don't know actually where we're headed or what will happen next. In really any aspect of life right now, it all feels like it's unsettled. But I think we have to remember, even if we're activists and we're standing up for a cause and we're expressing our opinion and telling people what we care about and what we stand for, we still have to figure out, how do we surrender control in these situations and know that things are flowing, things are moving in a certain direction, and we can't exhaust ourselves trying to control things that are outside of our control.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what I was thinking about the other day is that, like, we keep saying, oh my God, this is such a scary time in life on Earth because global warming and all these things. And it's like, I was like, hasn't that always been the case? Like, don't you think in the dark ages, everyone was freaking out about the fate of humanity and the Black Plague? Don't you think everyone freaked out about that? World War II, everyone was worried about the world wouldn't even exist anymore. You know, like every phase of humanity has had fear around this being the end. And if we look back in time, creation has continued to blossom out of all of those scary, dark periods of loss and tragedy and change. So if we think we're any different right now, we're not. We're still the same humans, afraid that we're going to die and afraid that the planet's going to implode and humanity's going to go extinct. That's always been us. That's always been the case since we were cavemen. So I think the true journey is awakening out of that consciousness of fear and into the oneness, you know, with unity consciousness, with the divine, where we're able to just be present, just be present with this moment in time, this creative aspect of humanity, this problem, this disease. You know, right now we're facing coronavirus, and that's a new thing, or at least this version of coronavirus. So if we can detach a little bit from that association, that identity with those fears, like this could be the end for us, and we just remember that, you know, humanity has gone through so many evolutions already, and this is yet another one, and we don't know what the future will bring, but we've seen how the divine, how creator creates through us through these changes. And what if we could just trust that the next thing will be for the highest good?
Yeah, and even in terms of the planet, if we think in the history of the planet, there have been 5 great extinctions before the one we're going through right now. And this amazing, beautiful, gorgeous planet that we have been inhabiting and living on arose after the previous extinction. And so things return and things come back. There are different seasons in life and ups and downs. And so you're right. I think there has always been uncertainty. Life has always been an unknown. No one has ever known what's in store and what's coming next.
Yeah. And for me and my journey, it's been like the willingness to detach from my, you know, ego identity, my one self, and tap into my infinite self that has lived many lives and seen many evolutions on this planet, and is always connected to my higher source. When I'm in that space, things don't seem as scary. It's easier to surrender because I know I'm a part of the flow. I know that I'm carried, you know, in divine light. And so ultimately fear becomes diminished when you're connected to that higher source. So surrender has been a really huge part of my soul path, and being brave enough to like face the unknown and continue to follow my heart and believe in my soul mission. And I think for me it's identifying less with my own personal fears and problems and issues, and identifying more with that part of me that is infinite.
And do you find, like what has been true for me is that learning to surrender is an ongoing process, because every time I feel like, wow, I successfully surrendered to that issue and I'm in the flow now and I'm doing really well, something else happens and I have to start over at the beginning and work on surrender with the newest thing, the latest issue that's come up in life. Is that true for you?
Oh yeah, it's a constant. Even if it's the same issue, you know, you might face it in a different way and have to surrender again. And then there's also a million different moments of surrender. It really is like, it's almost like every present moment requires a new surrender.
Mm.
And I was thinking that wherever in my life I'm not surrendering, I'm miserable. And
Mm.
wherever I am struggling in my life, I'm not surrendering. So that's kind of an easy, but also very like blatant way of seeing that, not surrendering is really the cause of our suffering.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, I
Mm.
like that. That's really true, and that's what Buddha would say too. I was reading this quote by Carlos Castaneda, who, I mean, he was popular when I was in college, and um, he wrote something about the ordinary man sees life as either a blessing or a curse, and usually both. Oh, today life is wonderful, but the next moment life is horrible because this happened, and which therefore creates this roller coaster of up and down and up and down. And he said, but the warrior sees every experience in life as just another challenge to look at, another challenge to learn from. And so I think that's what learning how to surrender is about. It's the warrior mentality of how do I see every single thing as this is my new challenge that I have to surrender, my new challenge to learn. How do I surrender and how do I stay in the flow through this experience?
And letting go of these labels of things being bad or good automatically, and trusting that there is a gift in every single thing that comes your way. There is a blessing in it. And so when something presents itself as being really negative, like being sick 4 times in a row or tearing your ACL, I think the true challenge is, can you stay present enough? Can you stay surrendered enough to welcome whatever blessing might come out of this, and to actually believe that there is a blessing there? I think that's a choice in our attitude that we can take on that will, and I mean, it reminds me of the quote, you can either believe that everything's a miracle or nothing's a miracle. And so a state of true surrender is that belief that everything is a miracle. And I'm a curious observer who wants to find out, what is the miracle that this challenge brings? What is the miracle that this sickness brings?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I know some people who do not have that belief system or that mindset, who don't see everything in life as either, a challenge to learn from or a miracle. And I feel fortunate that I've been able to have that mindset for a long time, and it's helped me a lot. Nonetheless, I've still had to work on surrendering, as we said, like in every moment, constantly. But I feel for people who have never opened to that attitude or mindset and don't have that knowledge or that understanding about life, and how hard it must be to understand what's happening in life and why do these things come along.
Yeah. And I think for people who haven't awakened to that perspective yet, that everything could be a miracle or bringing a blessing, unfortunately, they're going to have to face a lot of repeated struggle in order to learn that lesson of surrender. So, if in your life you feel that you keep having repeated challenges come up, repeated difficulties and struggles, then that's a really good sign that this is an area that requires your surrender, and that you are being taught, being shown how to let go and see the blessing in whatever it is. It is something that wants to heal in you. It's something that wants to awaken in you, something that you're meant to learn. And so I think if you're wondering how you can surrender more in your life, look at where you're struggling. Look at those repeated issues that keep coming up that are super challenging for you. Those are the perfect areas where we can grow and we can practice surrender, and we can try to find those gems of wisdom and
Hmm.
blessings in those challenges.
And those are the branches that you might be holding on to and clinging to without even knowing it, without even seeing it. That might be how you're even obstructing yourself from being in the flow.
Hmm.
Well, I had a dream. I'm sure I shared this with you a long time ago, but I just wanted to share it with the listeners because I think it's really relevant here. So bear with me as I go through this dream. I have like these really amazing dreams that are like teaching dreams. So
You have
that's
the
what this
best
one was.
dreams
Yeah. And they
ever.
stay with me. Like I don't forget a detail. I can still relive the entire dream. But in this dream, So I was in a department store that had these 19 different exhibits in it. And I was told that if you make it through all 19 of the exhibits, you become enlightened at the end. You have to start with number one and you have to go through all of them. But if you complete all 19, you will be enlightened at the end. And I remember, I mean, that's what I wanted. Like, I want to be enlightened. I'm going to do these. I'm going to go through these 19 stations and get enlightened. This is my chance. And so I don't know why it was in a department store. That's really weird. But, but they were in different areas of the store. So I had to kind of run around and go from one to another. And the other issue was the store was getting ready to close fairly soon. And this was like the last day these exhibits would be there that I could visit. So I just knew I have to do this right now. And I got through the first 18 really quickly. And so I was so excited because I only had one left to go through, and the store was going to be open for like 5 more minutes. And I thought, good, I should be able to do this. I'm just going to go to that last one. I'm going to ace it and get through that. And then I'm going to be enlightened. This is fantastic. So I could see that the 19th exhibit in front of me, and I was on my way there. This is much like looking at the map on my phone instead of looking where I was walking. Anyway, I was looking at that exhibit and I could see that it was a wall that had all these little shelves on it. And on each shelf was a round bowl of water that had either a lotus blossom or a candle floating in it. It was beautiful. The candles were all lit, so the lighting was beautiful, and the lotus blossom. So there were all these bowls on the wall, and I knew that's it. That's the last station. That's where I'm going to become enlightened. So I was staring at that wall, running toward it to try to get there on time. And I stumbled into a big barrel full of water and knocked it over. And I realized I was in this staging area. There were all these Buddhist monks there, and they were using the water in the barrel to fill up those round bowls and put the candles and the lotus blossoms in them, kind of behind or to the side of this exhibit. So when I knocked over the barrel of water, all the Buddhist monks stood around me in a circle, and they were saying mean things to me, like, "You're so stupid. Why did you knock over our barrel? What are you doing? Why weren't you paying attention? Why weren't you looking?" And I'm saying, I'm just trying to get to the 19th exhibit because I want to become enlightened. And they were all angry at me. So I realized, okay, I got to make this better. I'll try to clean up the water. And there was nothing I could use except I was wearing a sweater. So I took my sweater off and I soaked up the water in the sweater, and I wrung it out into the barrel. And I kept thinking, surely these Buddhist monks are going to help me like clean up. Because they know I'm trying to get to the exhibit because I want to become enlightened. But none of them helped me at all. They just stood in a circle criticizing me and saying every possible mean thing to me. And I just kept soaking up water with my sweater, wringing it out into the barrel over and over again. And eventually at some point, like I kind of somehow like stopped thinking about the exhibit, and I started just focusing on trying to get this water cleaned up. So I started focusing my energy on the rhythm really of soaking up the water, wringing it out, soaking up the water, wringing it out. And the more I focused on that, the quieter the monks became. They stopped criticizing me and stopped saying things to me. And I was aware gradually that there were fewer and fewer of them around me. So I kept cleaning up the water. I finally finished and the floor was completely dry. And I stood up, but realized the store had closed, all the lights were out, and the exhibit that I wanted to go into was closed. And there was only one Buddhist monk left. And I said, I completely blew it. I was trying so hard to get to that last exhibit because I wanted to become enlightened, and now it's not going to happen. I ruined it. And he smiled at me and he said, "This was the 19th exhibit. You just completed it." And so that dream like blew me away because of this revelation that sometimes like we think we're headed someplace. We think we're going one place and that's where we need to be. But actually it's the problems and it's the mistakes we make. It's the barrels we tip over. It's the times we trip on the sidewalk. It's the illnesses we have. Those are actually those are actually the opportunities for us to grow spiritually. That's actually where the river was taking us in the first place, was to the things that we think are interruptions, that we think were not supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that dream was really powerful for me as a reminder, you know what, I was already where I thought I was trying to get to. I was already there and I didn't even see it at the time.
Yep. Yeah, I love that dream. That is so powerful. And it kind of reminded me of, I mean, I agree. I think we all think we're headed somewhere and we're on a linear path and we're like, we're meant to be enlightened. And so we're going to head one direction and that's where we want to go. But I think, and this sounds cliche, but really the journey is the destination. So what if enlightenment is that awakening that happens right in that moment where you're facing your pain or your challenges or your setbacks or your fears, that moment that you awaken out of, believing that it should be anything different. And that moment that you really arrive in the present and you make the most of it and you clean up the water. And it's that moment of recognizing that this is the divine in action, like this is my soul path. I feel like that moment of awakening is enlightenment, and it's more of a verb than it is a noun. We're not supposed to be enlightened, we're supposed to be enlightening every moment. We're supposed to be
Wow.
enlightening, bringing light to every thought, bringing light to every feeling, bringing light to every situation. And so if we were supposed to just have a smooth ride with no troubles along this path, we wouldn't even come to earth. We wouldn't even come into these human journeys. So we are meant to face all the challenges that come up and to enlighten within them moment by moment.
So true. And you're right. This human journey, it's full of challenges. It's one challenge after another that comes our way. And I was thinking in my dream, those monks who were standing around me were really just all the voices in my head that keep telling me it should be different. Like, you screwed up. Why'd you do it this way? What's wrong with you? Why did you let this happen? And that part of being in the present moment and focusing on just what's right here in front of us is to help us quiet those voices in our heads and not get distracted by them and not let them hurt us, just to keep our focus on what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you, I mean, so you're in the midst of surrendering to your knee injury, but looking back at other things you've surrendered to, do you have any experiences or stories where because you were able to surrender, you were able to receive something like some incredible blessing? There was like some gift that came out of your willingness to surrender?
Well, I do. There have been a few times when I painfully surrendered again because I didn't have a choice, and good things came from it. And that this was a number of years ago when my book What Really Matters was first published. Like a week after it was published, and I was in the midst. I had all this big to-do list of things I was doing to market the book to try to help it sell better and promote the book. And that's when I had a bicycle crash and got a concussion and a broken collarbone. And because of the concussion, I couldn't be on my computer at all. I couldn't look at the computer screen because it was too taxing for my brain, which had to recover. And so I was completely crushed, like, well, great. The book just came out. This is my opportunity when I was supposed to do all of these promotional activities. All of these things were supposed to happen, but here I am laid up. I can't do one thing. I'm sitting on the couch every day. Now the book is just going to flounder. And by the time I recover, it'll be too late. I won't be able to even get it out there to sell it. And yet, during that time while I was laid up, I got a call from a reporter from USA Today who interviewed me over the telephone about my book. I have no idea how she heard about it. No idea. It wasn't because of anything I did. I was going to do outreach to all these people in the press. Wasn't able to do any of it. Somehow she heard about the book and interviewed me for USA Today. And then I got an offer from a publisher in South Korea who wanted to buy the rights to publish the book in South Korea. Again, I don't have the slightest idea, how did someone in South Korea ever hear about my book? Because none of these big things I was going to do to put it in the world even happened. And those blessings came my way while I was sitting there recovering, because I couldn't do anything else. I can't say I willingly surrendered, but I had no choice. I had to surrender to it because of the injury I had. But
Yeah, I think that brings up an interesting point, we have to surrender, actually. It's not even actually a choice to surrender. We are surrendering, but it's a choice how you view it. And it's a choice where you put your eyes. Do you put your eyes on the branches you're missing, or do you put your eyes on the sky and the rainbows and the clouds and the birds, and the trees? So yeah, I guess sometimes we do have a choice. Maybe we can make our choices, whether we surrender as in um, letting go of pushing a certain issue or outcome. But yeah, when you get hurt, there is no choice other than to surrender, that your choice is how you're going to view it.
yeah.
Well, I guess in my situation, I do kind of have a choice of whether I surrender. I was going to bring up how I've had to surrender so much in my career, and that has been a repeated issue for me that I've had to look at, because I've had a lot of ideas of what I wanted to create in my career, and it has been met with a lot of, in my eyes, failure. Not that I have really failed. I know that word is kind of misperceived, but for me, it has felt like the universe has blocked so many of my efforts to create something specific in my career. And so while I have sometimes tried to keep pushing and keep pushing for a certain goal or a certain outcome, that act of pushing against where I feel I'm being guided or where the flow is taking me, that's choosing not to surrender. That's choosing to continue to force what I wish would happen. Um, but when I have chosen to surrender finally and say, okay, I give up. And it is sometimes an energy of giving up to say, what else? What else is possible? I'm not going to do nothing, but I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop doing what I've been forcing. And so when I've allowed myself to give up what I was forcing in my career, the universe has so beautifully and delicately created who I am meant to be, and has shown me my actual gifts and where I'm needed in the world. And I couldn't have come up with any of it on my own. The things that have happened for me in my career have been so much more magical and so much more beautiful and divine and synchronistic than I could have ever planned in my mind. So I have fought hard against where the river of life was taking me in my career. And in those moments, I was choosing not to surrender. But when I did finally surrender, everything got way easier. Everything flowed a lot better. A lot more abundance came to me. And I awakened into this person I'm meant to be, and this career I'm meant to have, and the gifts I'm here to share. So that's been a really big repeated lesson for me, repeated surrender over and over again in my career. And as soon as I think I have it and I'm holding on to it, the universe says, no, let it go. Surrender that. We have a new plan. We're going to take you down this curve and this curve. And then you're going to see how we're guiding you next to something even more amazing.
And that's one thing I love. So the song that you wrote recently, which kind of inspired me to want to do this episode, called it's Will You Fly? That's correct. I just love some of the lyrics. The road, it crumbles at your feet. The path fades with every step you take. As I think that's such a good lesson for us to remember, that every time we think we see a straight road or a path stretching out before us, all I have to do is just keep walking in that direction. It actually, in every moment, starts to crumble and fade away from us. And that's when we can't let ourselves become afraid or discouraged or feel like, oh, life is so unfair and I'm being treated badly and the universe doesn't care about me. We have to stay in the moment. And so your song is about Will you fly? Will you leap beyond what's known and take flight? And it's really talking about, will you let yourself go into the unknown? Will you let yourself trust enough to be at the place of not knowing what's next, not knowing what will come to you?
Yeah, these lyrics, I have to say, I didn't premeditate them at all. I had no plan of writing this song. I just sat down and everything flowed out of me. And I can't take any credit for coming up with the idea. I was just the channel that it came through. So that's what makes them even more powerful to me, is that this was from higher above. And I think what the lyrics speak to is actually like a paradigm shift. It's actually transcending a certain level of consciousness, because when we're walking our paths, we think my options are right, left, forward, backward. Like we're like thinking so linearly of where I'm going to step next. And actually, the universe is asking you to fly. The universe is asking you to let the ground go. Remember the wings that are sprouted on your back, lift off and take flight. So it's that much of a paradigm shift where we're expecting a right turn and a left turn, and the universe is like, lift off. So it speaks to that willingness to completely surrender your expectations, completely surrender the world you thought you lived in and the person you thought you were, in order to expand into higher and higher levels of consciousness, higher realms where things are lighter, it's easier, it's freer, it's more fun, because you're willing to let go. You're willing to let go of what you thought you knew and fly into the unknown. That's really the challenge of being a soul in a human body, and working through awakening and enlightenment, if you will. It's a paradigm shift that asks you to fly when you thought the only options were to walk.
Oh, I love that so much. And it's making me think of the life cycle of the butterfly. When we're caterpillars, we think the only thing that life is about is walking on little branches and eating leaves. Like that's what life consists of, and what we love and cherish. And that's all we know and all that we can see. We don't know that this journey is going to require us to go into a cocoon for a while and to be really dissolved away so that something new can form, those wings can sprout and grow so that we can fly. And it all feels like a catastrophe, like as it's happening in the midst of it. And because we can't see what's beyond it, and we can't see the wings that are there, that are forming for us, and that are going to be there when we need them to take flight.
I was going to say, isn't it so true that the things that help us lift off the most are the tragedies? Like the good things that happen in our lives are great, but they don't help us awaken as much. They don't help us lift off and take flight as much. So that's how much we have to hold and embrace our struggles with so much compassion, and so much gratitude, because these are really the moments that help us completely expand and be
So
reborn.
so true. And so I wanted to ask you, in your experience with surrender, are there any little tips that you can share for people listening who themselves are dealing with this issue and trying to figure out how to let go and how to surrender?
Well, I think that the first step is really bringing awareness to where you're not surrendering. And that's actually tricky, because we often think that we're pretty like self-righteous, and we're like, no, like I want this thing and this is what I should have. This is the right way. This is what I deserve. This is how we should do things. So we get kind of stuck in our minds thinking of how things should be. And so I would like to first challenge you to find out where you're not surrendering, find out where you're stuck. And I'll bring it back to what I shared before, that wherever you're miserable or you're struggling, you're not surrendering. And so I would say, like, first, really tune in with your heart, with your emotions, maybe get out a journal and write out what you're struggling with, and write it out in detail. And the more you put it on paper, the more you can see clearly where it is you're fighting the flow of life, and where it is you need to let go, soften your grip, let life carry you, And and I think it's not easy. I think surrender is hard no matter what. And so I don't have a way to make it easy, but I do want to say that the more you're willing to look at the things, the pain that comes up in your life and the things that scare you and the things you're struggling with, the more surrender. You're actually walking the path of surrender just by bringing consciousness to that stuff. Just by
Mm,
being willing to look at it, you're starting to surrender by saying, okay, I see myself and I'm willing, I'm open. That's all you really have to say. I'm open to seeing this another way. And I think life will guide you through whatever surrender you need. But it starts with being really honest with how you feel, what you're struggling with, and being willing to see it another way.
I love that. And I was thinking of, just based on my dream that I shared, of keeping in mind maybe a little mantra is, I'm already there. I'm already where I keep trying to go. I'm already there. To remind yourself, like, I don't have to fight this. I can be where I am right now, and I'm already there in the place that I thought I should get to, that I wanted to get to. Um, and be present as much as possible with that reality. And then something that my friend Roger Moore, who is a medical hypnotherapist, he shared with me something he teaches his clients, which is this mantra: right now, I'm okay. And I really love that idea. Like, if no matter what's happening to you, no matter what's going on in your life, if you come into the present moment, sitting right here, right where you are, chances are you're actually going to feel like, I'm actually okay right now. I mean, things are okay. What makes us not okay is wishing we were back in the past or worrying about what might happen next. But in this moment, like, well, look, the sun's shining. I had a great breakfast this morning. That was really nice. Or, I mean, when you look at this exact moment right now, I'm okay. I have no idea what else is going to happen. I don't know what's next. Everything else is unknown, but in this moment, I'm okay. And I kind of like that too, as a way of just comforting ourselves. Like, so I'm already there where I was trying to get. And right now, I'm okay. It's all right.
It's so true. Even when things are not going well, even when you have a torn ACL or you're sick, or even when you're terminally ill, in this moment, I'm okay. It still always applies because there's a part of you that's at peace, no matter what's really going on. And I was thinking in the shower today, like, don't we all really deeply just want to hear that there's no other way that things should be? Like, our minds really want to argue that things should be a different way. But I think deeper in our hearts and our souls, there's a sense of relief when you hear that this is exactly how things are meant to be. You don't question so much the fate of life and the way things flow. And so if I could remind all of you of one thing, like, imagine that it's coming from the word of God. This is all exactly how it's meant to be. You're exactly right on time, and this is unfolding perfectly. It gives you this, like, sigh of relief that you're not doing it wrong. There's nothing else you
Exactly.
need to do. You're already here. You already made it, and this is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, no, and no matter how hard it is, and no matter how discouraging it looks in the moment at this time, you're still in the right place at the right time where you belong. And so there is a certain amount of peace and relaxation in all of that. And once you do relax into the moment, I think that's when creativity comes to you. That's
Yeah.
when suddenly a new idea pops into your head, or something opens up, or something happens for you that might take you somewhere completely surprising that you never would have imagined.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's the moment you accept that it couldn't be any other way that you finally let creativity flow through you, and new ideas come to you, and new solutions come to you, and a new you is born into that moment. It's the moment you accept there it couldn't be any other way than this, that you actually open up to the possibilities of that moment, and beautiful new things can flow.
And I wanted to say that in my mind, your work is such a perfect example of that as a songwriter. And you would probably say a song channeler in a lot of ways, because I'm sure it takes a lot of surrender on your part to let a song come through you. And like you have to stop your mind from arguing about, that's not the right word. Don't put that note in. Why are you playing? You have to stop that from happening in order to just let a song come through you. But it's like many, if not most, or all of your songs, it seems like come to you that way. Is that correct?
Um, I would say some of my best songs definitely just flowed through me. I can use my mind to write lyrics or write songs if I want to, if I intend to, but I think the most magical songs have just come to me and flowed through me.
Yeah, yeah, for
And I
sure.
used to really struggle with that surrender in writing songs. Like I used to be very afraid that my creativity wouldn't flow. And so I would like try to write a song and then almost just shut myself down because I was like, I don't know if I can let it come through me. And it just took practice and it took really like not caring anymore, really like, not giving a anymore and just saying whatever flows is okay with me, and I don't have to edit this music. I can just let it be a raw, pure creation and I trust it. And yeah, it was in that state of surrender that and trust that I started to let some of the best music come through me.
And so, Will You Fly? It sounds like, I mean, that did that song come to you as a whole song? Like just bam, it was there, the whole thing in your head, and
Pretty
it,
much. I didn't have any idea or concept of it, actually. Like, I wasn't even like, I want to write a song about surrender. Like, no, I didn't even, nope. I hadn't written a song actually in like, oh, sorry, I hadn't written a song on the guitar in like 3 years. Like, and because
wow.
my creative energy had been going to a lot of other things. I had been writing songs on the harmonium and I had been creating a lot of meditation content. And so my creative flow just wasn't in the guitar, for years. And I was kind of missing it and wanting something to be born through me, and waiting for that inspiration to hit. And so one day I just was in the right mood. I think I just felt inspiration starting to flow. Had no idea what was going to come through, but I just sat down with the guitar and started playing. And it was effortless. Like I didn't think about it. And basically all the lyrics and the whole thing just came through before I even had a chance to analyze what is this even about. It just,
Wow.
yeah, came out.
Wow. Sometimes do you feel like the songs that come through you are beyond your own understanding or your own wisdom? Like the song comes as like a teaching for you, something for you to learn from about life?
I mean, it's always something for me to learn from for sure. It's always something that will benefit me and heal me. But I would say I'm learning it as it's coming through me, and or it's something I know that's put in such poetic words, like more poetic than I could have ever said. And it's like a level of consciousness I have reached, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I would say that's happened for me with writing. Like times when I've sat down to write something and I was sure that I knew exactly what I was going to write and how it would turn out. And it ends up being something completely different. And I read it and think, wow, like that, that didn't come from me. Like that, I didn't understand this until this moment when I read what I wrote. I didn't
Yeah,
see it this clearly.
exactly. Like in these words.
Yeah.
Like putting
Yeah.
it in these words, it makes so much more sense. Even though it's like I already kind of understood this concept or this idea, these words make it so real in this really special way. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I am taught and inspired by the music and the meditations that flow through me. And I'm awakening to it the moment it comes through me, and I'm taught by it. And a lot of times I'll get inspired to create a meditation or a video on my Instagram, and then a day later, it's exactly what I needed to hear, and I had no idea that it was for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. And that's, to me, it seems like those occurrences, those things that happen come the more you practice being in the flow and surrendering and letting go of all of your attachments, the more those experiences start to happen in your life.
Oh yeah, I can say that for sure. Like the more I've been willing to surrender what I thought I wanted, the more the most spectacular, miraculous things have happened to me, including meeting my soulmate and living my soul path and giving my gifts to the world and awakening as a soul. Like everything that's good has come from my willingness to surrender what I thought I wanted and open up to where life wanted to take me.
Yeah, exactly. And none of them were things that you devised with your own mind and plotted out exactly how this was going to unfold.
In fact, it wouldn't even be fun if everything you wanted to happen happened. It would be so boring if this was the control center of how everything pans out. You'd be
So
so
true.
over it because you'd be able to predict everything and it would just be like, there's never enough surprise. There's never enough,
Yeah,
because I'm able to create it all in here. So the fact that we get surprised with things is actually what makes it worth it. Way
perfect.
more fun when challenges come up and you have to get creative about how is this going to make me the best version of me ever? That's what makes life fun.
Yeah. Wow. So perfect. Well, I would like you to share your song, Will You Fly,
Mhm.
with our listeners. Is there anything you wanted to say before that? Oh, I want to mention your website, divinelygia.com.
Mhm.
People can go there and find meditations, your music, even how to work with you one-on-one if they're
Yep.
interested.
Yeah. So I do one-on-one spiritual coaching, virtual. We can do it over Skype, wherever you are in the world. I also do one-on-one energy healing, which is more in person usually with sound healing and Reiki, aromatherapy, crystals. And then I also have a lot of content online that's just free for you to enjoy, such as my YouTube channel. I have hundreds of meditations on there. My YouTube is Divinely Gia, and we can post a link, I'm sure, to that
Mhm.
my channel. And I also recommend following me on Instagram if you'd like to see some of my daily posts and inspirations that come through me. That's also at Divinely Gia. And yeah, my music is on my website as well if you'd like to hear more of my songs and some of the music that has channeled through me.
And another thing you do is help people create ceremonies, like special ceremonies, if they like want to memorialize someone who has died, or some other kind of ritual, even weddings, other types of ceremonies that people need. You help them create music, create the words to say, and put together special ceremonies.
Yep. And in a previous podcast, actually, on End of Life University, we talked about rituals. And so,
Yeah.
you should listen to that episode if you haven't already. We talk about the power of rituals and how I've, in my work, started to offer that as like a ceremony for people, whether it's, yeah, the passing of a loved one or a beautiful new phase in your life. Rituals are so helpful. So, yeah, I feel really honored to lead people in ceremony to just really make it intentional and really set good energy forward into this transition, or let things go, whatever you need to mark that time in your life and then set yourself free to move on to the next phase.
Yeah. Well, Gia, you're the light of my life. Thank you for talking to all of us and sharing your wisdom. It's so much fun for me as your mom to see how you are flying and what you're bringing into the world. But I love these conversations we have.
Me too. I'm very grateful, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, you're so welcome. And you'll be back. Trust me. I'll have you
Having
again.
a good time, so we'll have more ideas to talk about.
Yeah. And so to close the podcast for today, you're going to play your song, Will You Fly, and
Yes,
sing for us. And
hopefully you guys can hear it well.
we'll make do with the limitations of,
Yep.
of recording here.
Yep. Hope you enjoy it. The road it crumbles at your feet, shaking legs are there strong or weak. The path it fades with every step you take, revealing wings underneath. Will you fly? Will you fly? Will you lean into the wind and soar high, soar high, soar high? Will you leap beyond what's known and take flight, take flight? When life becomes such a heavy chore, it's hard to breathe anymore. Just feel your wings lift you to the sky, for you are free and made of light. Will you fly? Will you fly? Will you lean into the wind and soar high, soar high, soar high? Will you leap beyond what's known and take flight, take flight, take flight, take flight? Will you face the great unknown? Take flight. Everybody's got a choice in how they live this life. Take it hard, take it light, or choose to fly. Everybody's got a choice in how they live this life. Take it hard, take it light, or choose to fly. Will you take flight? 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 The mystery unfolds slowly. Who knows what this precious life may bring? When worries weigh down and cause you fear, remember you can fly from here. Will you fly? Will you fly? Will you lean into the wind and soar high, soar high, soar high? Will you leap beyond what's known and take flight, Take flight. Take flight. Take flight. Will you face the great unknown? Take flight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I love it.
And maybe we can post the lyrics for everybody in case they're wondering.
Yes, I'll do that. I'll post them on the show notes for this episode.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Thank you, Gia.
Thanks for having me. Great to
Thank
chat
you.
with you. Sending everybody lots of love, and I hope to connect with you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.